Welcome. Is everyone hearing me? Okay, St. Louis is in the house. Thanks for being here for the next 3 hours. We're here to show you, give you a taste of everything from our beer to some of our favorite foods, and to share with you some of the amazing work being done in St. Louis, where AI is being applied to take on some of the world's biggest challenges. So thank you for being here. We want to get started right away with our amazing panelists, but please enjoy, drink the beer, eat the food. We've got t-shirts to give away with the iconic St. Louis flag. So thanks for being here, and we will get started by introducing our AI Gateway panel. Come on up. I'm going to hand the mic off to Nadine Alamé, who is the Executive Director of the Taylor Geospatial Institute in St. Louis.
Thank you, Tracy. How are you guys? Woo! All right, who is here from St. Louis? Woo! All right, they're over there. That's great. So I'm very happy to be here. You guys come on in, please. I'm Nadine Alamé. I'm the Executive Director of the Taylor Geospatial Institute. So a show of hands, who has heard of the Taylor Geospatial Institute? Ooh, I like this. Cool. So, if you have not heard about the Taylor Geospatial Institute, you're not crazy, because we are very, very new. It's actually the largest philanthropic investment in research for geospatial in St. Louis. So, I have another question for you. You're going to have to talk to me. Yes, that's the deal. Who has or who knows what geospatial is? 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5, 6. All right. So we're going to leave here everybody knowing about geospatial. You know why? Because you already know about geospatial. Did you use Uber to get here? Anybody? Yes? Did you check the weather to know what you're going to wear today? That's geospatial information. Have you watched the news about either some disaster, some flood, some hurricane, some war somewhere? That's all geospatial. Do you know about drones? Autonomous cars? Yes? Geospatial, geospatial, geospatial. We're all about location. I think for me, it's all about where is the nearest Starbucks everywhere I go. So that's geospatial to you. I'm very excited to be here with you today because we're going to talk about AI. All right, show of hands, AI. Come on, guys. Who has used ChatGPT? Other than my kids. Great. So we have an amazing panel for you today on AI from St. Louis to the world. And the reason it's amazing, it's one, we have 3 amazing gentlemen, but my favorite part is that it's in 3 different domains. We're going to talk about AI in health. We're going to talk about AI in agriculture. We're going to talk about AI in national security. Another question. Ready? Who eats food? Who eats food? All right. Do you want more nutritious food? Yes. Do you want sustainable agriculture as we produce this nutritious food? Yes. So you definitely need to hear what Jason has to say, because that's exactly what they do at his company, Benson Hill. So Jason is the Chief Technology Officer at Benson Hill. Food. I have another question for you. Ready? Who has an Apple Watch, a Garmin, anything that tracks your steps? Yes, in the back. Yes, all the way from the bar. You track your steps, your heart rate. Guess what? And I'm learning a lot here, because what Shenyang does is actually he can even predict your mental health using your wearables. So AI in health, he's going to tell you all about it. He is the director of AI for the Health Institute at WashU. Any WashU alums here? Because I know you were here yesterday. That's great. And last but not least, do you watch the news? Yes. So you're aware of the war in Ukraine? You're aware of the situation in Gaza? Do you see in the newspapers or on TV all these maps of troops, of resources, of just situation? Cue Mark Munsell from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. So they keep us safe by actually collecting information around geospatial from all over the world and analyzing it and figuring out, not just for wars, but for humanitarian purposes, disaster response. Mark is the director at NGA, so the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He's the director of Data and Digital Innovation Directorate. And the chief of AI? Yes, the chief of AI. So, are you as excited as I am to have these amazing people? Yes? All right, that's great. That's really great. So I want to start with the simplest question. Maybe I'll start with you, Mark. So what do you really do? And why are you on an AI panel?
First of all, I want to make sure that this is working. Is this working? Okay, good. I will speak louder. So the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is not the world's most known intelligence agency, but we are a three-letter agency. And I think Nadine's description was good. We do try to provide advantage for our country by providing warning, providing information on our adversaries. For example, when Russia was beginning to mount their forces on the Ukrainian border, NGA's roles and responsibility was to give the world warning that that was happening. Another good example, SEAL Team 6 raided the bin Laden compound. We gave SEAL Team 6 so many details about that compound. They knew exactly where every step, where every stair, where every wall, where every floor in that compound was. So this is what our agency does. We typically use either satellite imagery or some form of remote sensing. And now we're using artificial intelligence to determine this information automatically as much as we possibly can to provide that warning, to provide our president and our combatant commanders the greatest advantage that we can provide to our country.
Thank you, Mark, and it's really an honor to have you here with us. Thank you so much. Jason, what do you really do? And where does AI fit? I've been into your website and seen, like, from the seed to the plant to the food to our health. What do you do?
I get to work on really interesting problems. And the really interesting problem I'm working on is, how do you feed a growing population that needs more and more protein? Soybean is the crop that is the king of protein. It's grown on 80 million acres across the Midwest. 75% of it is used for food and feed. It literally feeds most of us here in terms of animal protein that it's used. Interestingly, it's not designed for that purpose. It's designed for yield. And when you think about it, its yield, its protein has actually been going down over the years. So at Benson Hill, we took a new look at it and said, well, let's design this crop for its actual purpose that it's being used for. Let's design a crop for feed and food. It's an easy thing to say. It's a pretty complicated thing to do. And that's where machine learning and AI comes in. Because now you have to relook at the genome of the crop, you have to look at how it's being produced, and you have to reinvent it from a breeding viewpoint. It's exciting because we're doing it and we're actually making a ton of progress, which I'll talk about later, but that's what I do.
Fantastic. So Chen Yang, please tell me, what can you get out of my watch and how can I use it better?
Sure. I'll give you two examples of the AI for Health Institute's research in this area. So the first, right, we all know depression is a worldwide problem. According to WHO, over 280 million people have depression, and over 50% of them are not diagnosed or treated. The reason it is so difficult to detect depression is because there's not enough psychiatrists and it's a lot of effort to get it diagnosed. So we figured, right, if you could detect depression, right, using just your wearable wristbands, right? So we did this research where we took 9,000 people's Fitbit data, right, along with their depression and anxiety disorder diagnosis. We built deep learning models so that you can detect depression unobtrusively just based on your Fitbit wristband data.
That's great. All right, audience, is this cool or what? It is cool. So I have a question, because we're talking here about AI, and I don't want to date myself, but when I went to school, there wasn't AI, right? And we sort of stumbled upon AI in the geospatial field. We used to literally get a satellite imagery and digitize the roads ourselves and the roundabouts and the cars. And now you train, right? That's the machine learning part. You train a model and voila, you can get the roundabouts, the roads, the infrastructure, the parking lots, I mean, you name it. So, and that's how I came across AI. So I'm very curious, where did this AI pop in your work, and sort of like when? Where are we on this journey? Who wants to take the first shot?
I can start off. So I wasn't trained in AI. It didn't exist when I was going through university. I was trained in statistics and quantitative genetics and in the sciences, which in some respects is actually difficult to come from there to AI, because in AI you're really framing up interesting questions and you don't know why you're getting the answers. And in science you pretty much always want to know why. So that's a shift. And it's kind of a constant, I think, in our world that what you do in your career really shifts. It changes a lot.
Yeah, so we have more information, we need the why, and we need the AI to help us in the process.
Yeah, so what we looked at was, we started with, I'll give you a really good example. So we worked on looking at how things get advanced in our pipelines. And in the sciences, we're always advancing things through discovery, through pre-production, and eventually to commercial. It's expensive and it takes a long time, and a lot of information is generated. And we simply said, well, can we start to predict in our pipeline what's going to move ahead, really before anyone knows it? And what we found was, and this is interesting because it was the first time we'd done this, we could do it about, on average, as well as the experts when we first started. And so I talked to some of my colleagues and they said, well, you don't know why and it's only as good as the average. Is this really that interesting? And I said, well, I know who all these experts are and I'm beating 50% of them and it's completely scalable and repeatable. I think we've got something here that's pretty interesting. And pretty quickly after that it got better and better. But it's a different way of thinking that really takes on.
I see Mark nodding his head.
Yeah, so for us, we use technology called computer vision, right? Which is isn't necessarily AI, but when you use machine learning, like in the domain of computer vision, that's mostly what we're doing. I think people are familiar with computer vision. You're probably familiar with it. Maybe you're not familiar with the term. When you go and use Google Lens, or when you have Google help you identify a cat on an image, Google gets that right like 99.999% of the time. You take a picture of a cat, Google knows it's a cat. Where it gets a little more difficult for Google is the sort of details down the ontology, different breeds of cat or variations of cats, is where maybe Google isn't as good because the model hasn't been trained on the details. So this problem set, or this technology is something that we use, but it's much more difficult to detect a cat from low Earth orbit, right? So when you have an image and the cat is only a few pixels on the image, these models are much more sophisticated. And so for us, when we're trying to detect military objects of interest, for example, a Houthi missile launcher, this is something that's important to us right now, as these missile launchers are attacking ships in the Red Sea. We have to train these models, these computer vision models, on these specific instances of missile launchers in these specific biomes of the Yemen desert. And so this is something that takes a lot of humans to get started. It takes humans to say, recognize what this, that have the expertise to recognize what this missile launcher is, recognize it in context, train the model to be able to detect these. It takes humans then again to sort of test and evaluate the model. Then it takes good humans to do something with the results of that model, like in this case, notify the Office of Naval Intelligence and say, your ships are under threat in the Red Sea. I think that's the best example of how we're using artificial intelligence today.
That's fascinating. Can you top that, Chen-Yang?
I'm not sure I can. I'll try. So AI for healthcare really happened about a decade ago when two brilliant things happened at the same time. One was the advancement in AI algorithms, the revolution in deep learning. Right, when I did my PhD, right, AI was in its winter. Like nobody was talking about AI. People don't believe AI can do anything. There was this joke in computer science where it says, oh, in computer science, there's two kinds of researchers, faculty. There's systems people, there's theory people. They look down at each other. Both of them look down at AI people. Okay, so that's what happens when I did my PhD about 20 years ago. But 10 years ago, AI had this breakthrough in deep learning. And then, also equally important, if not more, we have a lot more data in healthcare. Right? So there's the electronic health records where almost all major hospitals are using electronic health records with all these digitalized data. Then there's also these wearable data we just talked about. We're getting 500 million people bought wearables in 1 year, for example. We actually have a lot of data coming in. I'll give you another example so what happens is a combination of AI and data in healthcare opens up entirely new pathways to solve really challenging problems where people got stuck on, right? For example, there's a surgeon who came to me and said, in pancreatic cancer, right, we have this problem where surgery is the only cure, but at the same time, pancreatic surgery is extremely risky. It's at a 40% complication rate. Every time with the patient, right, the patient has a challenging decision is whether this patient should go for the surgery, right? He said it would be really nice if we could predict the risk level of a patient, right, developing complications after the surgery. So that's what we did, right? So basically, we give the patient a Fitbit device, right, 1 month before surgery. We look at that data, and then we build machine learning models to predict, right, the risk level of this patient, right, so that we can inform that decision about whether to take surgery and also to enroll in prehabilitation programs if they are not ready for it.
Aren't we lucky that we have this at our disposal? It's amazing. I really think it's amazing. So we would like to take questions from the audience. Yes, so start to think about what you'd like to ask these amazing people. I kid you not, we do panels all over the world. I've never seen the AI leaders in health and food and national security on one stage, just willing to talk to people. So definitely start thinking about your questions. I have a question here, and thank you, Greater St. Louis Inc., for getting us together. St. Louis, right? So why St. Louis? And I'll start because this is a weird journey. You can tell probably from my accent. So I'm Lebanese, right? Came to the US, went to MIT, worked at NASA, did this whole geospatial thing, and now I'm leading this institute in St. Louis, and you wonder, how did this happen? What's in St. Louis that is attracting these geospatial people? It's because we're trying to make geospatial, right, the home of geospatial in St. Louis. We're trying to get geospatial from St. Louis to the whole world. Thank you again to NGA, and I'll let Mark, I'm not going to steal your thunder, but for me, St. Louis, the home of geospatial, that's why I want to be there, right? And so I'm wondering, because, I love hearing where people came from and how they got here. So I detected an accent from Jason, for example. So why St. Louis? Why you in St. Louis? Why Benson Hill in St. Louis? And why AI in food in St. Louis? 4 questions in one.
That's complicated. Yeah, I'm not from St. Louis. I grew up in Australia, and partway through my career, I was working in Australia. We'd just had a son. He was born with Down syndrome, and I had a work experience in America, and came to the US. We worked for about 6 months, and I just found my son was getting much better care than we could possibly get in Australia, and the work opportunities were much better. So we decided to emigrate. He's doing fabulously. He's got powerlifting records in Missouri, state records. He's just under 30 years old. He's doing fantastic. But as a concerned parent, that's always something you take into account. For me, coming to the US just made a ton of sense, and coming to St. Louis made a ton of sense because there's more plant scientists with PhDs in St. Louis than anywhere else in the world. And when you think about innovating in agriculture, it kind of takes about 3 things. It takes really brilliant plant scientists, it takes really brilliant people with a data background, and really brilliant people in AI and statistics. And when I look at my organization, that's literally how it's made up, is we pair those 3 things together to drive innovation. And St. Louis is, just a hub for innovation in the work I'm doing around plant sciences. Did I get all 4?
You got it. Chen Yang, same question.
Yep. So I was not from St. Louis either, but I have been in St. Louis over 21 years. So it's actually the longest city, the city I've spent the longest of my time so far. It turns out St. Louis is a great place to do AI for healthcare. First of all, St. Louis has multiple sort of great healthcare systems, great leading medical schools such as the Washington University School of Medicine. Do you know actually WashU received the second most NIH research funding among all medical schools in the country? But more importantly, right? So there's this great culture at WashU and other places in St. Louis to collaborate, right? To collaborate across boundaries. I'll give you one real example, right? So about 10 years ago, I gave this talk at a conference about how we used wireless sensor networks to monitor patients in the hospital, right? So after my talk, one of the colleagues from one of the leading medical schools in the East Coast actually stood up and said, "Oh, this is really great to see. I was working on exactly the same thing for 7 years on the East Coast. I couldn't get into a single hospital there. But Barnes Jewish Hospital let us in, and we were able to do this world-leading research because of that collaborative culture across engineering and medicine."
I think it's fantastic. So I know I was listening to the previous panel, I think it was about Wisconsin, and they were saying how humble they are. I think St. Louis people are even more humble, and we need to get over it. So it shouldn't be the best kept secret. We should get it out there. Mark?
Nadine, what about my accent?
No, absolutely. Please tell me.
I have a St. Louis accent. So we say things like washer. Did you put your clothes in the washer? We call the Interstate 44, we call it farty far. What else? Yep. So what about my accent? Come on.
I can't stop laughing now.
I was born in St. Louis, and I think back to the Wisconsin panel, really fascinating to see a lot of that panel. Really intrigued by the Midwest Games CEO. They went out. In a lot of cases had to go to Silicon Valley or go to California or the East Coast. St. Louis has a lot of famous tech entrepreneurs that have done that. We have Jack Dorsey, we have Jim McKelvey, we have Sam Altman. So talking about AI, right? Sam Altman is from St. Louis. So I think it's really important that the tenet that the last panel had, which is we have creative, brilliant people in the Midwest. We just have to figure out a way to sort of keep them here and have them flourish in place instead of have to go out to California or Texas.
Do you want to tell us about the NGA decision in St. Louis?
So Nadine was mentioning that the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency we have two headquarters. We have one in Washington, D.C., Springfield, Virginia, and we have one in St. Louis. And we have about 3,500 employees in St. Louis, and it's one of the area's largest employers, definitely the largest federal employer. But there was a time where we were making a decision whether we should leave St. Louis and either go to Illinois or go somewhere else. And we made the decision to stay in St. Louis. And we made the decision to build our new West headquarters, we call it, in North St. Louis, in an area that has traditionally been, has been under blight. And so making that decision, making the federal investment to build our new headquarters there, did provide some energy. It provided some motivation for the city. It provided motivation for the bi-state area to partner with us and invest in this technology. And it's difficult to explain the technology when we talk about geospatial because it's a combination of space, it's a combination of remote sensing, it's a combination of industry called geographic information systems. It brings all these sort of businesses together into one. But when we made that announcement, it was a real sort of key event for the community to rally behind what we did, for us to partner with them, and for that federal investment to come into North St. Louis.
Thank you. It's an amazing story, and the energy that it's generating in St. Louis is very, very amazing. So I hope you guys are, thinking about a couple of good questions. Tough questions would be great. Fun questions. I love the people on the bar out there getting ready. Let me ask one more, because life is not all, this is amazing, this is great, we've got it figured out, everything is rosy. It's tough, and you must be facing some serious challenges, especially around AI, whether it's a lot of information, whether you can't find the right people, whether nobody trusts your results, whether you're trying to insert AI in a system that's not designed for AI. I can think of so many challenges. So let's get real. Maybe we can start with health. What are the challenges here?
Okay, sure. AI actually faces a lot of challenges in healthcare because you are dealing with human health, right? So certainly the whole trustworthiness of AI is critical. Right, so AI will not replace doctors in the near future because of that reason. So it's going to be more a collaborative relationship, right? So then it raises all kinds of questions. For example, we don't like AI to be a black box when it has to do with a patient's health. If you make a certain prediction, you have to be able to explain it. Right? You have to point to actionable risk factors that are modifiable with medicine. Because if you say this person is high risk, because they are too old, right? So that's not a modifiable factor, right? So what I have to point out are actionable advice, right, to the doctors. And then you have to figure out how the doctors and the AI work with each other, right? So how do they complement each other? How do they trust each other? So that the combination of the two become the better doctor, right? So as is often said, right, so AI will not replace doctors, but doctors who use AI will replace those who don't. So basically, we are trying to make that a reality.
No, well said. And you could see people nodding their heads about doctors using AI are better than the doctors who don't use the AI. Gotcha. What are the tough issues in agriculture and food? Not to depress us. I mean, I'm tracking my stuff here.
Sure. There's a few things that are always kind of perennial. One is you're always kind of delayed in getting to answers by moving data around, new forms of data. I think that, to me, that's kind of cost of goods. It comes with the territory. If you're innovating, you're bringing diverse data sets together, that's life. If that's become really easy, you're probably not innovating. Talent's always one. I kind of take a simplifying viewpoint here that whatever someone comes with is not ultimately what we want. We're always going to want people to move to the middle. If you come from a data science background, we're going to want you to understand plant sciences because you're just more effective when you move to the middle. So that kind of simplifies that side of things as well. I'm just losing my train of thought.
What's hard? I mean, it's because you have a lot of hard problems to solve. So that was like a talent issue and how you bring people in the middle.
Yeah, the hard thing, the thing that I've spent the most energy on is coming up with new questions. Coming up with questions that you can solve through AI and constructing them in a way that a machine can do it and a machine can learn. I still think that's kind of it's a place where we're not bad at it, but I think we can just be a lot better at it. So that's where I put a lot of energy into it.
No, I feel you, definitely. Mark, what's hard about your job?
Yeah, for us, it's really scale. So our agency is one of the world's largest consumer of cloud storage and cloud compute. We image a lot of the Earth every day, and so you can imagine it's petabytes and petabytes of information. So to not just the quality of the algorithms, not just the quality of the models that we struggle with, it's sometimes that we're trying to build computer vision models of rarely observed objects that might only be in the open for minutes or hours at a time. And so your training data is very limited because of that. And then the cost of storing that data, running inference on all that imagery, and to do it at scale so that we can provide warning as fast as we can, it's very costly. It's very expensive. So if we have any folks from Congress here, you'd like to talk to me afterwards, I'd be happy to talk to you.
I love this, never missing an opportunity. So any questions from the audience? I mean, I have a whole 2-pager here, but this is for you. Any questions? Yes, please.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
I'm from St. Louis. I live down in South City, down in Dutchtown. Yeah. So I would love to know, from your perspective, where you see your 3 industries or areas of expertise intersecting in St. Louis. So there's obviously the development individually, but I think some of the greatest things come from the mixing of tech and the mixing of industries. So I'd just love to hear, where are you seeing your own industry mixing between yourselves and between others in St. Louis?
Can I start, even though I'm the moderator?
Sure. Please.
They gave me a mic, so so to me, That's why I'm excited about geospatial in St. Louis, because what is geospatial? We have geospatial in health because you can track, how the disease is spreading. We've all experienced COVID, and we got all the maps everywhere in every newspaper. It's all over agriculture. What do you plant, where, when is also using the satellite imagery and the drone imagery. So all of a sudden, transportation, infrastructure, everything to us. And that's where, if you're looking for one type of skill, it's not one type of skill. We need everybody. You need the computer scientists, the software developers, but also the urban planners and the transportation people and the plant science people and the doctors. So to me, it's just like this, we need this, geospatial can bring all of these towards these use cases that end up being in these domains. But again, it's not about me, so please, guys.
Yeah, I can. Obviously, national security intersects both of these things. I'll just generalize it as health. To be able to track disease, to be able to track potentially lethal disease, let's say Ebola in Africa, that's a great example. It's a national security issue, and so the way that it spreads spatially and spatial and temporally over time, and as much information as we can collect on that to be able to provide information back to the government so they can act on it, so they can mobilize, and they can, and the same with food science and agricultural science, to be able to use remote sensing. For many years, we have a whole department at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency that keeps track of food security and agricultural security for countries that might destabilize, where without the right sort of food resources available and the right national agricultural programs available, they might be a risk to their neighbors, they might be a risk for collapse, they might be a risk to our allies. So all of these sciences come together, and the use of artificial intelligence kind of enables it all together so that we can provide, again, the best warning, the best information to our policymakers.
Jason or Shenyang, do you want to comment on this question?
Well, I think I can add that regardless what application domains, right, you do need this vibrant AI education and research and talents in that region, right? So then you can always take these talents, combine it with different domains of expertise in these different areas.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of lift just from having the expertise in a location. We saw that with a lot of the genomics work that was done at WashU. Those people really moved around St. Louis into different areas. I think we're going to see that with geospatial. I think that sort of talent mixing into various application areas just is very organic.
I think I like the word organic, because if you try to over-organize it, it's overwhelming. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm also a lifelong St. Louisan, proud St. Louisan, and we have an office and headquarters in downtown West. I feel like you guys work for 3 companies that are doing like world-class, national work. And a lot of companies in St. Louis are, but we kind of get very insular in ourselves, and we just kind of stick to our own communities. That like Midwest humility, like you said, it's not a good thing, right? These are not secrets that should be being kept. So how can other companies in St. Louis talk about themselves or kind of engage with the community in a way that it's a story that's bigger than St. Louis to bring in national talent for your companies and everyone else that's here?
That sounds like a good question for Greater St. Louis. If anyone wants to, where's Tracy? Brian, somebody. Did you hear the question? How do we get the other companies in St. Louis to come to South by Southwest? So quick test for the audience. Let's just name some of the top companies in St. Louis. You might not realize. I'm looking at a lot of St. Louis people here. Boeing, right? Centene, Anheuser-Busch, Bear, Square. Clementines! When do we put a plug in for Clementine?
Ice
Right
cream,
now?
ice cream. All right, we're having ice cream from Clementine's afterwards. That's why I'm here, baby. Yeah.
So yeah, let's bring them down to, let's make believe they're doing artificial intelligence and bring them down to South by Southwest.
So I tell you, I love this question because I think it shouldn't be forced. And I think what everybody's trying to do is let the good work speak for itself. And if you notice, nobody can do food security alone. So they have to collaborate with everybody. So we're picking the tough problems on this earth. And this is, to me, it's over time. It will bring, everybody will start to talk about this because it's happening in this region. But we shouldn't be too humble.
Well, it's certainly true in AI for healthcare. We are collaborating all over the country, right? We have joint projects with Stanford, joint projects with schools at the East Coast. And certainly, it's a very collaborative culture. In healthcare, in particular, you want multi-center studies because you have to make sure the AI works not only in St. Louis, but also in Boston and also in Palo Alto and so on, right? So.
Any other questions before the final question? Yes.
Hi, so I work for St. Louis University, and I'm wondering, how do we engage college students to use AI to solve pressing problems?
Can you repeat, please?
How do we use our current group of college students to use AI to solve pressing problems?
How do we use the current college students to solve the problems?
Well, yes, we were already using them, right? So certainly our institute has armies of undergrads, right, from computer science, from data science. They're already contributing to all these research that we are doing. So for example, right, this Fitbit-based studies that we have done in many different domains, right, in the past decade or so, the initial data collection infrastructure was written by undergrad students at WashU, right? So I think they will be surprised to know that 10 years later, their code are still being used in all these major studies across different medical centers and different healthcare domains.
I would say it's there's two different angles here. One is sort of applying the AI technology that's been developed over the last few years to a vast amount of business domains, right? So right now, AI is only being applied to, some domains that have promise. So more and more of that, the expansion of applying AI to everything is going to happen over the next 5 or 10 years, and that's a great opportunity, not just for computer science students or data science students, but for business students and everyone. And then, of course, then the other piece here is, I think there's a whole class of artificial intelligence that we don't know about yet, right? That researchers are sort of inventing now. And I am sure that we have students at St. Louis University, the other universities, that will be part of that research and that will invent things that we have not seen yet.
So we have 3 minutes left. So I say, since we have you on the stage, how we're gonna commit in front of this audience that will hold us accountable to solving some global challenges out of St. Louis. I will start. What I want, and we need all the help that we can get, I want to get over flooding and wildfires and hurricanes killing people. We're in the 2024 and we still have people dying from what I call simple stuff, flooding and fires. So I'm using everything that I have to solve these problems, to mitigate them, to predict them, and to save those lives. Mark?
Yeah, I would say it aligns with the core values of my agency. We want to shine light on people that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing to prevent them from doing it.
Yes, Jason?
Well, it's kind of where I started. I mean, what I'm focused on is really a recommoditization of soybean, coming out with a soybean that's materially better for its end-use applications in feed and food, and I think that has tremendous value for really all of us.
Yeah, I'll say our healthcare system today is far from optimal, right? So, what I'm busy with is to work with many others to seamlessly integrate trustworthy AI into our healthcare systems, so that AI and physicians and clinicians can work together to make our healthcare more cost-effective and more targeted to result in better human health and outcomes.
All right, so we got better health, better public health, better human health, soybean of the future. All right, you heard it here first. And then just preventing bad people from doing bad things with and saving the world. Are you in? Are you in? Yes? All right. Well, thank you so much, Shenyang, Jason, and Mark, and big thanks to Greater St. Louis Inc.'s Tracy and her team for actually getting us together, and for the Midwest, this amazing tent in the shade with these amazing people who will be having ice cream very soon, right? All right. Thank you so much. Thanks.